Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our banter, where we talk about the story Cicada narrated for the week, what parts we like, and what parts we didn't like about it. To start off this week, sadly, there was no animals in the story, Cicada. Broke my heart. But there was grins in the story, and I've got an animal fun fact that involved grins. There's this Australian marsupial named Quaka, believe, something along those lines. And, I guess for the spelling, it will be Quokka. They have got very tiny jaws that force their face into a permanent grin. So here's our animal fun fact of the day. No need to research that. It's confirmed. Cow confirmed right there.
That's a that's a cow confirmed fact right there. It's Kawaka for the record. Um,
You see, cow confirmed fact, not cow confirmed pronunciation. Those are two very different things. And I only had time to run to one confirmation office today. So thank you, Cicada.
Absolutely. After the Gorshin's incident, I'll be your permanent check for your pronunciations. Don't worry.
I I appreciate that. But besides the point, let's get straight into the story. I want to talk about, I guess, the whole ending. I want to start off with the ending. I like the beginning, but I want to start with the ending first. I really was ripped out of it when the main character brought up his son. I don't know about you, but that just kinda pulled me away from the whole thing. How did you enjoy the ending of this story?
Yeah, the ending to me was one of those where it didn't make a ton of sense. I understand why he asks his son. Trevor explains as he's geeked out on the bed that they're going to come in as children. So I would believe that the main antagonist, having dealt with these things already, is fearful that perhaps his own child could be a Grin.
Okay, I mean, I don't I feel like his child would have to go missing to be a Grin, right? Because it's not like Trevor's parents didn't realize he was missing. Like, it's not like they replace people, they kinda just take people. So I guess to just instantly battle with you right there,
No,
I don't
I see where you're coming from, and I understand why you would think that. But he does say that, now that they've learned enough and they've taken enough, that they're coming and they're going to come as children. So it wouldn't be unreal for them to have taken their child and then replaced him with something that is a child, because it says they're going to come as children specifically.
okay, and so I'm again, I just didn't really understand the ending too good. So when you think they say they took our color and all that, it's because they're going to be creating perfect body doubles and not showing up as these kind of goo monsters that Trevor was in the end of the story.
Yeah, I mean, they never really show up as like goo monsters specifically. I think the goo, I didn't really understand the goo on Trevor. That to me didn't make a whole lot of sense. I think they want to be like the perfect mimicry of a person, but specifically with that, I don't really understand why they are doing what they're doing. There's no real explanation as to what the purpose of a grin is. What is their end goal?
No, it just kind of seems like they're they're showing up, they're taking kids, and now they're gonna be coming back as kids. But, I mean, at what point if they're feeding I'm just gonna let me tangent here for a little. If they're gonna I'm assuming they take the kids, they drain more or less the life force from them because Trevor died almost instantly after keep in mind, 20 years, but, I mean, they took everything they could from Trevor, if that really even is Trevor and not just a grin. But besides that point, they let him out. He died pretty fast, and that's the life cycle of a grin? They kinda need humans around to continue living.
Exactly. And I think that T.W. Grimm doesn't really touch on what it is. I I I really enjoyed most of the story, but you're right. I didn't really understand the monster behind it. I don't. Their purpose doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I understand that the whole psychological horror behind it is supposed to be that his friend comes back and it's scary because he's doing these ramblings and he's scared, so you're supposed to be scared. They're coming, they're here, be afraid, but why? What what are they gonna do?
Yeah, and I mean, the idea of, stealing children, that's pretty scary. That happens in the real world. The whole milk carton thing, missing child. It's scary, it's real. I To be honest, when they first described the grin standing behind the house, it it didn't really bring fear, kinda just more brought, like, peeping Tom. Like, it just almost I imagine in my head a pervert just standing behind the house, just eyeballing this child. It was more of a,
Yeah,
like, what is this guy?" "Why is he huge? Why is he sitting there with a huge grin? Why do his eyes look like that?" Not a, "Oh my gosh, this is the guy, this is the big bad."
definitely. And I mean, you know, with everything that the story does really well, I think the monster is done very poorly. Um, you know, T.W. Grimm, he's a very established author. You know, he's got a ton of other books and things like that. I've definitely listened to a couple of other stories, you know, read a few of them. He does really well with a bunch of other things, but I just don't think that the monster this one is very scary or anything like that. And I think that it could have done better even if, you know, he disappears into the house and then 20 years later, our protagonist here sees the house again and he sees the childhood Trevor and like sees him get pulled back into the house, like reaching out for help, you know, something along those lines. Like it's still just keeping him.
Yeah. Now that would be really good, and I know I've come straight out the gate, more or less dogging on this story. I I gotta say, I like the beginning. I really love how they describe that first farmhouse, the thing that appeared across the field, um, as the adults can't see it. I think that's a great touch. I It kinda leads me to asking some questions like, is it only the kids seeing it because they're after children? Is this almost an imagination type thing? Like, can the adults not comprehend that kind of like a Cthulhu horror, like an Eldritch horror? Like, it is so complicated to the mind that if you were to perceive it, would they go insane? Or, like, what's the point of the adults not seeing it?
I would think that that is more of a the adults can't see it because they are specifically targeting children. But once again, that would loop us back into the why are they targeting children? Why are they coming as children? What is the point of them in the long run? So I don't want to go back into that tangent, unfortunately. But no, I do agree with you. Grimm does an incredible job at describing the scenes that are around us. You know, he talks about how the house is green with these ugly yellow shutters, and to me, the descriptions that go into it, you know, I can picture that house in my mind almost, and almost every scene that he describes, I can see it in my mind.
Oh, 100%. I mean, everything's described amazingly. Even, like, the whole dinner scene, the aroma of the food, it's like I could smell it. It's like I was there. And I could also perfectly picture me and a buddy, me and you, scarfing down food as kids and bolting out of that house just to go out and play. Like, it's a very real, relatable feeling, and, it really draws you into the story.
Definitely. That concept of, you know, your friend comes over and you're really excited to have a sleepover and things like that. So you're wolfing down dinner to get out and go do something at least just in case that you can't actually have that sleepover. That's definitely like a core childhood memory for me. And I think that Grimm does an incredible job at capturing that childhood wonder, if I would.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely playing with the, imagination of children. Uh, More specifically, like, talking about the games that our protagonist is playing, like, I believe they played Lewis and Clark was mentioned. Just being able to explore the great unknown, this great unknown being the property that the kid lives on and how he's spending his days out by the creek. It's just great detail.
Yeah, that specifically appealed to me. I grew up out in the country and my friends would come over. We wouldn't play specifically Lewis and Clark, but we would go out for hours. We would have a little knapsack. We would pack a sandwich or two and a bottle of water, and we would go out for hours wandering through the woods, wandering miles and miles. So I definitely, that resonated really well with me. I really, really enjoyed how he talked about, the stream and going out into the woods farther and farther and really just like exploring these things. And I almost got to relive those moments of my life while narrating the story, and I very much enjoyed that.
Okay, so now clocking at your country boy. What are you doing if you're playing out in the country, the woods, and you come across, the biggest building you've ever seen? Are you going to peek around like in the are you going to peek around in it like Trevor?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even think that I'm waiting for Trevor. Like if I would definitely be the Trevor of that scenario, but if I was the main protagonist in this story, I would have been taken by the grins. I Something like that. I've explored a couple abandoned things, as a child. You see them off in the distance and you're, "Ooh, what is that?" So you go over there and you're checking them out and the candle in the window, that's something that I would have been totally oblivious to. They would have gotten me right then and there, story done and over with.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, I totally understand why Trevor couldn't see the candle because it was on the top floor. And I mean, he was just looking into that first window. Thank God he had the protagonist there to temporarily save him. I Another scene I really wanna touch on, the whole getting pulled away in the sleeping bag. That that was spine chilling. Having the protagonist want to scream, but just doesn't understand the situation that's going on, not being able to make a sound, watching this happen, and then finally, as it's too late, being able to let out a scream, trying to explain it to your parents and the police, just for your best friend to be gone.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, once again, something that I can actually relate to, not having my best friend dragged away in a sleeping bag, but, you know, you ever wake up from a nightmare as a child and you want to scream for your parents, but you go to open your mouth and just nothing comes out?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I could count on at least 10 fingers and 10 toes how many times it's happened.
10 hooves, you mean? Um, but no, yeah, absolutely. That was one of those where that's what I tied that into in my own existence. And I think that's kind of from the other stories that I've read by Grimm, he does really well at equating it to your own life. It's real world things that you can feel and relate to. And I think that very much adds to his own horror.
Okay. I I guess it's time to let the calf out of the bag. Gonna be so honest, I have never read any of Grimm's work before listening to your narration today. So I can't make any conclusion or argument based on their more upcoming works.
Well, the good news is that he's readily available on multiple platforms. You can absolutely check him out. He's super talented, super fun to read. I think that unfortunately, we did pick one of his lesser stories. It's still very popular. People still really like it, and I think that if you get into him, he's got a lot that you can read, and there's definitely something for everybody. He does a lot of different monsters and different types of horror specifically.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was I like to do some research on every author we read from. And this story was posted about 11 years ago. And from my kind of deep diving, it was, I believe, the fourth or fifth story that Grimm has written. But they do have several published works that are doing pretty well on Amazon. So I will be leaving a link in the description So anyone who's listening, you should definitely go support Grimm if you like their work. Maybe get a soft cover or a hard cover. You know, you got to be supporting these authors so they could keep pumping out good stuff.
Absolutely. I didn't realize that this was this early into Grimm's career. I kind of assumed this was further down the line. I guess I can ease up a little bit on the writing. You know, this early as a writer, I feel like it's got to be brutal. You know, I've never written a real story in my life, so I can't really hold a candle to anything that he produces or could produce. So I guess, I can't be too harsh of a judgment, but with that judgment, unfortunately the outer things do call to me, so I may have to cut our banter short, but as is tradition, I would like to do a rating of our story.
Okay, I'll let you lead with it.
Absolutely. I wanted to like it so badly. I loved the storytelling. I loved the detail, the relatability to everything, but I didn't like the monster. It didn't resonate with me and I just couldn't get behind it. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to give this a 6 out of 10.
I am gonna have to be in a somewhat similar ballpark with you, Cicada. I know normally I'm out here dropping sevens and eights. The ending. I know not to dog on Grimm. This is one of their earlier works. They're still figuring out writing, and I could do nothing like what they just put on pen and paper. It would come out way worse. Still, I'm probably gonna have to give it a 5. That ending really tore me out of the story.
That's entirely fair. I definitely, 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 definitely recommend that you go out and you find yourself a couple more Grimm stories, maybe things that are more recent, because he definitely developed as a writer, and they are incredible, spine chilling stories that you can listen to.
I believe it just off the ratings alone. I was reading some of the reviews. It seems like their work is loved by the community. And so I'm not gonna die on them. I'm sure they do great stuff. But on that note, it is time to bar those barn doors, Cicada.
Absolutely. And the outers called to me, so unfortunately, I must leave you.
Well, have a good night, everyone. We'll see you in the next episode.
Good night.